If you ignore this, you'll miss the highest money frequency of your life. Not because a video can deposit anything into your account. Not because these words contain some hidden financial spell, but because there is a particular relationship between you and money that has been running quietly in the background of your entire life, shaping outcomes far more than luck, timing, or effort ever could on their own. And maybe that is exactly why you are here now, at this hour, with this title, Staying Instead of Scrolling Past. It is no coincidence that you are here. Let that sentence settle without needing proof, not as flattery, not as fate handed to you on a plate, just as a possibility worth sitting with for the next few minutes. Before this video ends, you will understand three things. Soon you will see why money behaves less like a resource you chase and more like a signal that responds to the frequency you are already broadcasting toward it. Later, you will understand why your body, not your mindset, not your affirmations, is actually the most honest record of your true relationship with money, and why that record has been speaking this entire time, whether you were listening or not. And before we close, I will guide you through a short practice that many people describe as the first time they felt their body genuinely relax around the subject of money, instead of quietly bracing against it. So before we go further, take this as your first tuning. If any part of this message is already landing somewhere true in you, subscribe to this channel now. Not as a reflex, but as a small, quiet commitment to keep noticing your own money frequency instead of letting old patterns run unexamined in the background of your life. When you subscribe, you are telling your own mind, I am willing to keep listening to what my body already knows about money. I am willing to keep matching a frequency instead of chasing an outcome. Because there are two kinds of people who arrive at a message like this one. There are those who hear the word money and immediately want a formula, a technique, a shortcut, and grow impatient when the answer turns out to be quieter and more internal than that. And there are those who stay long enough to understand that the internal shift is, itself, the actual mechanism, not a spiritual detour around the real work, but the real work itself. You already know which one you are tonight. For most of your life, you were taught to think about money almost entirely in terms of external strategy. Earn more, spend less, invest wisely, work harder, all useful, all worth doing, and none of it addressing a deeper layer that quietly determines how those strategies actually land in a real life. Two people can follow the exact same financial advice and experience wildly different outcomes, not because one tried harder, but because one carries a frequency around money built on ease, clarity, and quiet expectancy, while the other carries a frequency built on anxiety, shame, and quiet dread. And that underlying frequency shapes decisions, timing, and opportunity in ways no spreadsheet alone can fully capture. This is the first revelation. Money is not simply a math problem. It is also, underneath the math, a relationship, and relationships are shaped by the frequency two parties bring to them. Here is a simple, honest way to test this in your own life. Think about the last time you looked at a price tag on something you genuinely wanted. Notice, honestly, what happened in your body before your mind even finished calculating whether you could afford it. Did your chest tighten? Did your shoulders rise slightly toward your ears? Did an old, familiar voice immediately say something like, "That is too much," or "People like me do not get to have that," or "I will feel guilty even considering it"? Now think about the last time you opened a bill, an actual bill, before you had even seen the number. Did your stomach drop in anticipation? Did a flinch arrive before any information had actually been received? These small, immediate, pre-verbal reactions are your real money frequency speaking, far more honestly than any goal you have written down or any affirmation you have repeated in a mirror. Many people spend years trying to change their financial outcomes while leaving this underlying frequency completely untouched, adding new strategies on top of an old, anxious foundation, the way someone might repaint a room without ever addressing the crack running through the wall behind the paint. And sometimes, for a while, The new coat of paint seems to work. A raise arrives. A good investment pays off. But the old crack, the old frequency, tends to resurface eventually in a sudden, unnecessary purchase made from anxiety rather than genuine want. In a chronic inability to actually feel secure no matter how the numbers actually look. In a strange, persistent sense that no amount will ever quite be enough. This is the trap almost everyone circling financial anxiety lives inside without naming it. Change the strategy, leave the frequency exactly as it was, and wonder, years later, why the underlying unease never actually resolved. There are those who will spend a lifetime adding new financial strategies on top of an unexamined old frequency, wondering why the underlying unease persists no matter how the numbers change. And there are those who will pause here, in this very video, and ask a quieter, more honest question. What if my actual relationship with money, not just my strategy around it, is the thing most worth examining right now? Not a promise, not a guarantee of a specific number by a specific date, but an invitation, available starting now. Now listen carefully, because this is where the title becomes more than a title. The highest money frequency of your life is not a single dramatic financial windfall waiting somewhere out in the world. It is a private, repeatable inner recalibration, available to anyone willing to notice their body's honest relationship with money and gently, patiently begin shifting it from bracing to trusting. Money is not chasing you. It is matching you. Let that sentence rest here for a moment, the way a single note rests before the next one arrives. Not as a doctrine demanding blind faith, but as an experience to test against your own honest financial life right now. This does not mean external circumstance is irrelevant, or that systemic inequality does not genuinely shape what is possible for different people in different situations. This is not a message pretending real constraint does not exist. It means that within whatever real circumstance you are navigating, the frequency you bring to it, anxious grasping or grounded steadiness, tends to shape which opportunities you actually notice, which risks you are willing to take, and which doors you approach rather than quietly avoid. Here is the quiet loop most people circling financial anxiety live inside, without ever naming it. An early experience, sometimes a specific memory, sometimes a general household atmosphere, teaches the nervous system that money is dangerous, scarce, or a source of conflict and shame. From then on, the body braces every time money becomes relevant. And that bracing generates avoidance of checking accounts, avoidance of difficult money conversations, avoidance of opportunities that might require financial risk. That avoidance generates exactly the kind of financial confusion and instability the person feared in the first place, not because money itself is inherently chaotic, but because a body in constant bracing rarely makes its clearest decisions. And the person concludes, once again, that money is simply stressful, simply confusing, simply something that happens to them rather than something they have any real relationship with at all. There are those who will hear this and feel a flicker of defensiveness, as if being told their financial anxiety has a pattern is being told their financial struggle was never real or never unfair. It absolutely was real. Genuine hardship, genuine inequality, genuine systemic difficulty are not being dismissed here. This is not a message asking you to pretend real financial constraint does not exist, or that better feelings alone erase real debt or real scarcity. This is a message asking a more precise, more useful question underneath all of that. Given whatever real circumstance exists, what is the frequency from which you are meeting it? One of chronic bracing and avoidance, or one of steady, clear-eyed presence? That question does not erase difficulty. It simply refuses to let difficulty be the only voice left speaking in the room. Take a slow breath right now, without needing to close your eyes if you are not ready. Notice the quality of the air entering your body. Notice whether your chest feels open or quietly guarded, the specific guardedness that shows up around the subject of money in particular. You do not need to change anything yet, just notice the current state of your own money frequency in this exact moment. This is the beginning of financial frequency literacy, the ability to feel where your body is bracing before you spend another year mistaking that bracing for simple, unavoidable reality. If this message is beginning to touch something real in you, comment this phrase now: I am ready to meet money from steadiness instead of fear. Writing it will not instantly dissolve a lifetime of financial conditioning, but it becomes a small marker your own mind can return to later, a quiet anchor point in an ordinary day, a reminder that you once, consciously, chose to notice your bracing instead of living inside it unexamined. And when someone else reads those words beneath this video, they may feel, for a moment, a little less alone in their own noticing. Maran. Now let the next layer open. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that comes specifically from treating money as a constant emergency, even when the actual numbers, in a given moment, are perfectly stable. This happens because the nervous system, once trained toward financial bracing, does not always check current reality before reacting. It reacts to the category, money, rather than the specific, current, actual situation. This is the second revelation. Much of what feels like realistic financial vigilance is, on closer, honest inspection, an old alarm system still firing based on outdated information, still protecting against a scarcity that may no longer accurately describe the present moment, however accurately it once described the past. Notice how differently a financial decision gets made from these two different states. A bracing, alarmed nervous system tends to make decisions from urgency, either freezing entirely, unable to act on anything, or acting impulsively just to make the discomfort of uncertainty stop, regardless of whether the impulsive choice actually serves the longer-term picture. A steady, regulated nervous system can look at the exact same set of numbers and actually think clearly, weighing options, tolerating short-term uncertainty in service of a longer-term plan, without the decision being hijacked by an old alarm mistaking the present for the past. If this is resonating with you, subscribe now, not as a casual gesture, but as a small, energetic commitment to keep practicing this kind of steadiness instead of letting today's clarity dissolve quietly back into tomorrow's old bracing. Let it mean, I am choosing, on purpose, to keep meeting money from a regulated place rather than an alarmed one. Consider, too, how often financial shame gets passed down without ever being consciously chosen by anyone in the chain. A parent who grew up in real scarcity teaches, often without words, entirely through tone and tension, that money is dangerous and must be guarded anxiously. A child absorbs that tension long before they understand a single financial concept and carries it forward, often for decades, without ever examining whether it still applies to their own actual circumstances. This is not about blaming that parent, who was very likely doing their honest best with a nervous system shaped by their own inherited scarcity. It is simply about noticing that much of what feels like your own permanent financial personality may actually be inherited weather, absorbed early, never actually chosen, and, because it was never chosen, available to be examined and gently updated now. There is a particular myth worth naming directly, because without naming it, this teaching can be quietly misunderstood. This is not a message suggesting that better feelings about money magically produce more of it, regardless of actual skill, effort, or circumstance. Financial competence, real budgeting, real planning, real patience still matters enormously. The frequency being described here is not a replacement for financial skill. It is the internal condition that determines whether financial skill actually gets applied clearly, consistently, and without being derailed by panic, avoidance, or shame every time money becomes emotionally activating. Here is something worth sitting with honestly. Many people secretly resist financial steadiness, even while consciously wanting it, because a familiar, anxious relationship with money, however uncomfortable, still feels safer than the unfamiliar vulnerability of actually trusting that things could be different. If your entire financial history has been organized around bracing, checking, worrying, and avoiding, A version of you who simply meets money calmly can feel strangely unfamiliar, even suspicious, even though it is what you have always said you wanted. This is not weakness. It is simply a nervous system trusting what it recognizes over what it has not yet practiced. If this describes something in you, you are not failing at this shift. You are standing right at its edge, which is exactly where this practice is designed to meet you. Now we move toward the practice hidden inside this message. Let your body settle wherever you are sitting or lying right now. You do not need silence around you, only a small amount of willingness inside you. Soften your gaze, or let your eyes close if that feels right. Let your next breath arrive a little slower than the one before it. Not forced, simply unhurried. Feel the weight of your body being held by whatever is beneath it. The chair, the floor, the surface that has been holding you this entire time without asking anything in return. You are not trying to force a specific financial outcome. You are simply noticing, honestly, where your body currently braces around this subject. As you breathe, bring to mind, gently, one ordinary financial moment from your recent life. Checking a balance, considering a purchase, opening a bill. Notice, without judgment, exactly where in your body the reaction lived. The chest, the stomach, the shoulders, the jaw. Inhale slowly, and as you do, silently imagine that specific place in your body softening slightly, receiving a small amount of warmth or space. Exhale slowly, and as you release the breath, imagine releasing a small piece of the old bracing. Not all of it, not permanently, just a small, honest amount. Right now, in this breath, inhale, soften. Exhale, release. Let this happen 2 or 3 more times, at your own unhurried pace. There is no wrong way to practice this. There is only the noticing and the gentle return to it whenever old bracing reappears, which it will, and which is simply part of the practice rather than a failure of it. As you continue breathing at this slower pace, silently repeat the sentence forming underneath this entire message. Money is not chasing you. It is matching you. Let the words move with your breath rather than your urgency. Money is not chasing you on the inhale. It is matching you on the exhale. Feel how different this sentence lands when it is received not as pressure to perform positivity, but as a quiet, honest invitation to notice what frequency you are actually bringing to this relationship, and to gently, patiently begin adjusting it. Notice, without needing to change anything further, whether something in your chest or stomach feels even slightly different than it did when this video began. Perhaps a small softening. Perhaps very little has shifted, and that is completely fine too. This practice is not measured by a single dramatic breakthrough or a sudden financial windfall by the end of this video. It is measured the way any nervous system pattern is actually changed, through quiet, unglamorous repetition, returning again and again to steadiness rather than bracing. Let this small practice become something you can return to without needing a video to guide you through it again. One noticed reaction, one breath, one quiet sentence, timed to the rhythm of your own body. Money is not chasing you, it is matching you. This costs nothing, requires no special setting, and can be practiced before opening a bill, before a financial conversation, or simply in an ordinary quiet moment when nothing urgent is happening at all. The people who genuinely experience real, lasting financial ease over time are rarely the ones who found one dramatic breakthrough or one perfect strategy. They are the ones who returned to a small practice like this one, quietly, imperfectly, hundreds of times, until steadiness around money stopped feeling like performance and started feeling like the actual, honest truth of their body. Now, gently bring your attention back to the room around you, to the sound of your own presence here, to the simple fact that you stayed through this entire message when a dozen easier distractions were only a swipe away. That choice to stay is itself a small act of the very steadiness this video has been describing. Let us gather what this message has offered you. The recognition that money is not simply external strategy, but also an internal relationship shaped by frequency, and that frequency shapes how strategy actually lands in a real life. The understanding that your body, more honestly than any goal or affirmation, has been recording your true relationship with money this entire time, in flinches, in bracing, in the small pre-verbal reactions that arrive before conscious thought does. The honesty that financial competence still matters enormously, and that the frequency being described here is not a replacement for skill, but the internal condition that determines whether skill gets applied clearly rather than derailed by panic. And the practice, simple enough to repeat daily, of one breath, one noticed reaction, one quiet sentence that can guide you back whenever old bracing returns. Money is not chasing you, it is matching you. If this message reached you at the right moment, like this video now, not for an algorithm, but as a way of sealing this recognition in your own field of attention, subscribe if you have not yet, because the next transmission will go deeper into what happens once this steadiness becomes familiar, how financial decisions begin to shift once panic stops driving them, and why some opportunities become visible for the first time once the old bracing softens enough to actually notice them. Share this with someone who has been quietly exhausted by a financial anxiety they never chose. Someone who needs to hear that their relationship with money can actually be examined and gently changed, the same way any relationship can. You are not bad with money. You are not simply unlucky, and you were never simply undisciplined. Your body has been carrying an old frequency, inherited or learned, and that frequency, patiently noticed, can begin to shift. Money is not chasing you, it is matching you. And perhaps the highest money frequency of your life is not a single windfall waiting somewhere out in the world, not a lottery ticket, not a stroke of rare fortune reserved for someone else, but the quiet, repeatable moment happening in you right now, the moment you notice where your body has been bracing, and remember that softening it was always, ultimately, available to you.